Hi, my name is Dwayne Gathers, and welcome to Civitas LA, featuring diverse and emerging leaders who make up this dynamic region and are creating community every day and building a better tomorrow. In these bi-weekly conversations, we hear from, learn from, and are truly inspired by a new generation of civic entrepreneurs who are forging a path forward in making Los Angeles a stronger, more resilient, and connected group of citizens. Now more than ever, we aim to elevate civic discourse, foster community connections, and promote civic knowledge and engagement across our region while elevating diverse and emerging voices in this conversation. Civitas LA, with this episode, is proud to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, beginning with the release of this episode on Wednesday, September 15th. Over the course of the next month, we look forward to celebrating and elevating and hearing from diverse voices in our community, not only who are uplifting the Hispanic community across our region, but our region overall. Reports suggest that Latinas, a fast-growing segment of the U.S. population, will represent 30% of the female population by 2060. However, statistics have also shown that 3 in 10 Latina households have zero or negative wealth. Recognizing this wealth gap as a call to action, the New Economics for Women was founded in 1984 with a mission to provide a voice and leadership for low-income and low-wealth immigrant Latinas and their families. Civitas LA is pleased to be joined in studio today by Bea Stotzer, co-founder of New Economics for Women, to discuss their efforts to build community and spark economic mobility for women through wealth creation, housing, education, entrepreneurship, and civic engagement. New has built spaces and designed solutions, educated people, and invested in communities across the greater Los Angeles region. Bea is a nationally recognized businesswoman and family advocate who has devoted her life to creating economic and business solutions for poor families. And more importantly, and more interestingly, she was able to leverage an initial $97,000 grant into $300 million in investments for New. Bea also currently chairs the Los Angeles County Women and Girls Initiative's Governing Council. And for full disclosure, I had the pleasure of serving with Bea on the board of the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation. So Bea, welcome to Civitas LA.
Oh, thank you so much, Dwayne, for having me today.
Well, we are excited to have you here. We're excited to kick off this dynamic series over the next month. So, Bea, we always like to give our guests the opportunity to introduce yourselves. So give us a brief introduction to Bea Stotzer for our listeners.
Oh, my goodness. First generation Latina, parents born in Mexico with very little education. Grew up in Boyle Heights, a passionate learner. Coro alum, I always like to say. Also a proud member of several organizations, Latinas Lead California, the Korean Resource Center, Vermont Slauson CDC, Central City Neighborhood Partners, and of course, New Economics for Women. What else can I tell you about me? I am not only so proud to be Latina, I am also so proud to be able to be in the space of helping women have a better economic future.
Now, that's wonderful. And you just referenced Coro. And as you know, you may know, we just had the opportunity to feature Natalie Samardzian, CEO of Coro, on our episode. So what a wonderful connection that is. So before we get into the crux of the conversation, we always like to begin with a little lightning round. And you're a busy civic leader, but of course, at times you take time to rest your soul and enjoy Los Angeles. So give us an inside look at your Los Angeles. Are you ready for these lightning round questions?
Sure.
Excellent. Well, you know, everyone loves to eat, so give us your favorite restaurant or two.
Teresitas in Boyle Heights and Dojo in Sherman Oaks.
Okay. Those are new to us. We like that. Favorite watering hole? That is, if you like watering holes. Some people don't.
I like watering holes. Okay. Most of them have closed since COVID. Langham in Pasadena is great, but my favorite place is my den in my home with lots of friends and good wine.
Okay. Are you a red or white or rosé?
Red.
Okay. I'll come over then sometime. Favorite place to take a visitor?
Hollywood Beach in Ventura.
Oh.
In Oxnard.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't know that.
It's a private beach. Nobody
Excellent.
knows.
Okay. Favorite park or hike?
Griffith Park.
Griffith Park. Love that. Share with us a hidden gem.
Inner City Arts. And Pacoima, for those of you who love to be Mexican and be in a community that truly is welcoming and full of different sites, is Pacoima.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Besides Boyle Heights, of course.
No, and that gives us, a great segue, because as we've unfolded our community spotlight series, I think Boyle Heights is clearly on the agenda, as is Pacoima. So that's wonderful. So, B, as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, share with us, if any importance your Hispanic heritage and your identity as a Latina has played in your professional journey, and how it's informed the ways that you've chosen to serve both community and our region.
Well, as my parents came to have a better view of what their future would be for their children, my dad moved to L.A. because he wanted to be a jazz musician. He was a very famous musician in Mexico, but felt that L.A. was the hub of studio work. Unfortunately, that was not the case for him, because there was a lot of discrimination for Latinos, still to this day, by the way. So my parents are from Mexico. 6 of us, 6 children, grew up in a very tiny home in Boyle Heights, 2 of which had muscular dystrophy. I had a brilliant mom who was a passionate reader and a capitalist, for sure. I mean, She was very good with money and always talked to us about what to do with it and why it was so important. And every day she would always make sure that we were very thankful about being in the United States. She read the Constitution to us, by the way, and helped us understand what it meant. We were here to contribute to this great experiment called democracy, and we had an obligation to serve this country in return for all the opportunity and generosity it had given us to our family, especially to my brother and sister, who received free medical equipment, services, to ensuring that they had a better quality of life. Such incredible amount of opportunity that I was given growing up. So that's really shaped from the very beginning my love for this country, my love for making it work, and more importantly, for investing in what I believe needs to be a better community.
And B, you worked for the city of Los Angeles for many years, and you had leadership roles within the Department of Water and Power. What led you to the formation of New Economics for Women? What were some of the circumstances you were seeing at that time that motivated you to take that step?
It was a wonderful time. When I worked for the general manager's office, I was very privileged to be selected to be a community rep for the department while I still had my day job, and to be a representative in the Latino community. When the department wanted to inform organizations about what it was doing, what were some of the policy issues involved on the power grid, on water issues. There were very few organizations that would, one, advocate one way or the other regarding supporting the department, but more importantly, that even knew what economic development was or what business development was for Los Angeles. So with the limited opportunities that the department saw in the Latino community to be able to inform organizations, they allowed me to spend a lot of time helping organizations get more involved in economic development issues. They were kind enough to allow me to do the choral program. I was on sabbatical during that time. They allowed me to take the Chorals Fellows program, and when I was selected. And when I returned to the department, I very much got involved in public affairs and in government affairs. And it was then that I decided to start New Economics for Women with several other women to address the economic issues and be an economic development voice for Los Angeles.
That's amazing. So let's talk about the overview of the work of New Economics for Women. And what I'm really amazed by, that in 1991, New made history by leveraging an initial $97,000 grant from United Way and turned that into the Casa Loma project, which is a 110-unit housing project that is said to be the first housing project in the nation by Latinas for Latinas, particularly Latina single parents. Tell us about that project and how this came about.
A lot of information that I'll try to say in a very short period of time. But Dwayne, we have over a 30-year history of advancing economic mobility for our community. We had a very clear purpose to prove that we could reduce poverty by helping women change their mindset about poverty, money, and helping them make decisions to have a better economic future for their families. It's all in our name, New Economics for Women. Our methodology was to create services that address Maslow's hierarchy of needs, start with safety and move up to being able to self-actualize your dreams. Our very first innovative project, like you said, was to build affordable housing designed for Latinas, for large families, with childcare on site, resource services, so that we could have case management that really focused on helping families identify their economic goals. United Way honored us with their innovation grant. It was $97,000 that we stretched that to acquire our first project, Casa Loma. It ended up being a $20 million investment.
Wow.
But what was funny at the time is we didn't know what the heck we were doing.
Where's the Casa Loma project?
It's in Westlake Pico Union on 3rd and Loma.
3rd and Loma, okay. Well, I saw that you had a recent blog where you talked about the work of New as not about offering temporary handouts that will shelter a woman and her family for a few days or months, but really your work is aimed at ending generational cycles of homelessness and poverty while creating economic equity solutions to ensure that women truly improve their economic trajectory into the middle class. Can you elaborate on that statement and how your organization's work tackles these systemic issues?
Well, in a variety of ways. We believe that economic mobility is a fundamental human right. It's in our Constitution. In the pursuit of happiness, to start with, for instance. To spark that economic mobility, women are at the center of creating a family's values around education, money, and purpose. If a woman understands her economic future and really understands the value of who she is and has an economic voice, she would be able to help her family navigate institutions and the economy in order to have it benefit them and her children. So creating a mindset for investing in themselves and what will get them to a better future is what we're about. For example, like I said, we have home ownership workshops. We have workshop on how do you protect your assets during the Obama presidency, when there were so many raids in our community. We helped families understand what it meant should they get deported. They needed to have guardianship. They needed to understand the legality of what they needed to deal with. And we provided emergency toolkits in order for them to address that. So it's not only about building assets and investments and savings and understanding your credit scores, of course, but it's also protecting what you have and being able to understand what it means to live in the United States. So we do it by ensuring that those investments help them grow. And we also provide access to capital building as well as business loans and credit building. But more importantly, we support any legislation and initiative that aims to disrupt the system of injustice, especially when it comes to financial institutions and the ability to get credit for women.
Yeah, I'm going to diverge right now and ask about what's been the relationship with traditional credit institutions?
Terrible for the Latino community. We predicted the collapse of the housing market before it came because we were seeing janitors being given home loans that were earning minimum wage, but a loan for $200,000 or $300,000 that they couldn't afford. We kept screaming our heads off about how all of these predatory lenders literally prey on families that need to pay their rent, even if it's for $200 or $300. And it's a systemic issue about charging them 400% to 600% interest in order for them to pay it back. Credit agencies do not recognize how our economy works in the Latino community or any poor community. It doesn't really matter what its ethnic background is.
And how is that evolving after the collapse of 2008, 09, 10?
Well, I think they've been forced to be much more responsible. You have to prove that you can afford a home. I believe that there's much more disclosures that need to be regarding the ownership of these agencies, as well as the families that are going to be able to sustain that mortgage through a period of time. I think banks now better understand their responsibility to underserved communities in ways that they didn't, especially now because of COVID.
Sure. No, that's great. And, I know, New Economics for Women believes in the power of place. Tell us about the importance of place in your work and what geographies New has developed communities and the unique ways that New fosters community.
Well, just in the design and the power of a space, it has to be beautiful. It functions for families and creates conversation and spaces for community. So, for example, our first project, Asaloma, we built 2 courtyards, one for children and one for seniors, because our first bedrooms were in one corner and our large families were in another corner. So we designed around that. We designed staircases around the elevators so children can go up and down and not be so disruptive. Lighting and security, and ensuring that families know that they're safe in the building. We build, like I said, to be responsive for the kinds of families in our community, 4 and 5 bedrooms. Our kitchens are much larger.
Okay.
We have several kitchens and in learning spaces in every part of our developments. It's not just about a little tiny community room.
Sure.
We built childcare spaces in several of our properties in order to address the need. We've had award-winning design, especially at Tierra del Sol, where we built 115 units. And this is where we had our 5 bedrooms because we saw a need of generational families having to live together.
And what part of Los Angeles would that be in? Because as you know, land prices have gotten so out of control in various parts of Los Angeles. So in what geographies of the region are you finding land to be able to do these larger format living units?
Well, Tierra is at Canoga Park.
Okay.
We are in Pico Union, Westlake. We are in East LA. We're in it's Taylor Yard.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Just north of
and
downtown.
We're in San Pedro. South Central, now we have a partnership in South Central. We're finding opportunity in the East San Fernando Valley.
Okay.
We're looking at Lancaster, Palmdale area.
Okay.
So there's opportunity. Is whether you have the money to do it is something else.
Well, I know, La Posada is one of your signature projects, and this is a transitional living program that seeks to stabilize and empower formerly homeless women and survivors of domestic violence with safe and secure housing. And we certainly understand that domestic violence or intimate partner violence plays a significant role in homelessness amongst women. So how is New seeking to address these challenges and this particular subgroup of women who are affected by domestic violence?
Well, there's so much to say about this, Dwayne. I don't know where to start, but let me just say that whatever system we're talking about, whether it's federal, state, local, and philanthropy for that matter, there is so little being done to support women who have been victims of violence or sexual assault, or to address homelessness, especially for women with children. 36% of the total population, homeless population in LA are now Latino, which had never been the case before.
Okay.
26% of that are unsheltered, unhoused women, and you have a total population of unsheltered individuals of about 50,000. So what makes this worse is that, the federal definition of what is chronically homeless, in order to qualify for all of this permanent supported housing, is that you have to be living on the street for a year. What mother is going to do that with a child, or 2, or 3? If they do, it has to be around a place where they feel safe. Couch surfing, car, sleeping, whatever it takes, even, riding the metro at night in order to make sure they're not on the street. We've seen a variety of cases. So when you're looking at those situations, and there is no housing for women who are experiencing domestic violence in any which way. What do? You stay. There is very little options, especially if you're not working, or especially if you believe that you don't have no economic way out. You end up staying. We are trying to carve out funding that would really help us deal with building transitional housing in a different way. The federal government and local government requires that it be for 2 years. Any woman with a child that has been traumatized and has had to deal with the issues of violence, it does not take 2 years to get stable, to be able to find a house, to be able to find a good educational school, for their children. It's a long time to be able to help a woman with children who experience violence. So we're working with the East Los Angeles Women's Center and identifying a demonstration project that would allow for a 5 to 10 year transitional housing, looking at shared housing model and a different design in order to build that power of space for community, but yet have privacy. And as member of the chair for the Women's and Girls Initiative, we're also identifying ways in which we can be more intersectional and more purposeful in how, the county is addressing those issues.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was gonna jump forward to that question, actually. I know you are the chair currently of this Los Angeles County Women and Girls Initiatives Governing Council, and this is an initiative that was spearheaded by LA County Supervisors Sheila Kuehl and Hilda Solis. So can you tell us about this initiative? What are they aiming at, and how are they addressing issues at the county level of importance to women and girls across our region?
Well, the Board of Supervisors unanimously adopted this motion in 2016, I believe, or 2017, I can't remember, which is called WGI, LA County on Women and Girls Initiative. It is tasked with examining the system issues that lead to inequitable gender outcomes and recommending changes to improve the quality of life for women and girls in LA County. So far, we've had a couple of years of community input, a variety of efforts, and we've had a gender impact assessment. We've created an employee climate survey, and we're currently finalizing our economic resiliency and mobility study. What we know now is that women are not counted in anywhere. So we hope that the county recognizes it and is doing an incredible amount of effort to use data to drive policy, which it has not been able to do so because of all the funding sources and privacy issues it has to deal with. We hope that we will be making our final report next year, and with the recommendations that will follow, that I believe will help better navigate the county and have better outcomes for women and girls.
And what impact do you think having 5 women as County Board of Supervisors will have on this final report and on how the county moves forward?
Incredible amount of impact. I'm hoping when we do make that report that the Board of Supervisors recognizes the need to do business differently and to show accountability in a much grander way. Funding sources drive services rather than data and need driving services. And when you can't tell me, for instance, how much child care is needed in the county because they just don't have the capacity to know the need, it's pretty unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. We need to give the county the tools it needs in order to drive better policy.
Well, B, let's back up because you talked about the impact of COVID, and we still are in the pandemic. And recently, you were interviewed by CNBC, and which highlighted the work of New Economics for Women. And you mentioned that for Latinas, especially, they have been impacted by this incredible pandemic to a degree that no one really understands. So what are some of the unique issues being faced by Latinas in our region, and how has the pandemic exacerbated these issues, and what are some of the opportunities that you see coming out of this to move the community forward?
Well, I think first and foremost, we all need to recognize that regardless of economic status, The anxiety, the isolation, and the mistrust experienced by women is deep, and that we all must help to address it, especially for our children. Women had to sacrifice everything in order to survive. It's all about the enormity and the loss of accessible and affordable childcare, not only for your children, but for your parents as well, where many of us had to take care of both and be able to ensure, that you did everything possible for someone close to you not to die because of COVID. I think we all now recognize that Latinas are the backbone of this economy. We are the caretakers. We're the poop picker-uppers of dogs, taking care of dogs. We beauty salon. We're housekeepers. We're everything that helps this economy continue. We clean toilets. We mop floors. We go to work. We feed our children. Essential workers is to be redefined in a much bigger way, and I think we all felt that in the economy and the impact of COVID. Job recovery is not going to be here for a long time. Sure. I mean, we know now the incredible amount of loss for mom and pop restaurants that really helped enormous amount of families survive. We now know the loss of beauty salons, of hair salons, of nail salons especially. So many nail salons closed as a result of COVID. The amount of debt families have in order to survive this pandemic will stifle our ability to recover for a long time, and will stifle families to be able to do the kinds of savings they need in order to absorb the risk in the future. So what in terms of the opportunities that we see coming, I think there's an incredible amount of opportunity coming despite all of that impact. The emotional trauma-driven programs have to be looked at differently. I think all of us, it doesn't matter whether you're a mental health provider or not, you need to address the trauma of what families are facing, especially women. We're tired, very, very tired. We're not sleeping. Everywhere I go, women are telling me, I wish I could sleep more.
Sure.
But more importantly, I think the opportunities are what this Biden administration is providing the region in business lending, in business opportunity, infrastructure money that will be coming in order to improve our streets. We have the Olympics coming. We have so many incredible international events that are coming to Los Angeles that it's a great opportunity to revitalize women-owned businesses and entrepreneurship in the region that will really help families thrive.
Well, I know one of the things that you talked about earlier in our conversation was, coming out of the pandemic, hoping that we all look at new opportunities to do business in a different way, and that includes, how we build and address the issue of housing. And so New Economics for Women is not only providing services to women in need, but you're also a home builder here in our region. And, we can't leave the episode without addressing the issue of, how do you get things done in the city of Los Angeles. Recently, the city offered their updated housing element, saying that we needed over 450,000 units of housing. How do we get there, given the current processes and procedures? How do you view the challenge of building affordable housing in our city, in our region, to address the issues of women and families and children?
That's a very complex question.
That can either be a new episode, or you can give
I
me
think that should be a whole separate conversation with good civic leadership and disruptors in the room.
We need some disruptors, for sure.
We need some disruptors. I truly believe this is not about money and resources. It's about the courage to lead, and we certainly don't have at the city at the moment. We don't have courageous leaders. When I was working at DWP, it's so funny when I look back, we measured performance on the reliability of the power grid, on ensuring meters were installed within a 3-month window, and providing incentives for businesses to come to Los Angeles or to stay. City permitting was quick and departments worked together to make it happen. None of that is occurring right now. Our city is in crisis, and I think we all know it. It's, we might as well just be bold about it and say it's not working no matter where you look. But I think for today, the housing crisis to work, it has to be about incentives. Transit-oriented community incentive program is a great example. You get a density bonus if you agree to build a certain percentage of units in affordable housing. This incentive should not only apply for a project that's close to transit, but it should be for any multifamily permit that, building that has to take place in all of this region, in all of California. I think there should be a mandate that at least 10 to 20% be affordable. Not necessarily deep affordable, but affordable, especially for working families. Wages need to be up in order to keep pace with rents. We need to focus more rigorous resources for the prevention of homelessness, providing funding to help families deal with short-term financial crises that would prevent them from paying, for instance, their rent and getting evicted. So, for example, if a family needs to fix their car, and it's going to cost, $1,000 for buying, let's say, tires and doing a tune-up, and it's falling apart and they can't pay their rent, we're able to help. We've been able to negotiate a payment plan with landlords in order for families to be able to afford paying their rent and make arrears. We've had opportunity to help families learn how to budget and give them a little bit of money in order to sustain their lifestyle or their bills in order for them to be able to pay their rent for a short-term period of time. It's not for always. But they've learned, and it's been an incredibly successful program, and the city now has adopted it. Mm-hmm. Also, we need to really think about innovative ways to do and to build affordable housing. Modular housing is one of them, different designs in order to be quicker and better. But much more important is that we need predictability from this city in order to reduce cost. When we first started our little houses in Canoga Park that we were going to build, at the beginning it would have taken us 4 to 6 months to get our tract map approved. It took us 2.5 years.
Wow.
We built 4 units at the beginning, and then our second phase, which was an additional 4 units, it quadrupled in less than 5 years, the cost of permits to build single-family housing in LA.
And do you think the city understands this? And do you think the city has the willingness or the ability to do something about that to reduce those costs?
It's trying very hard, but it's looking in the wrong places.
Okay.
You're not measuring the right things. You're not measuring reliability of a meter, for instance. Do you know that it takes 1.5 years to get a meter installed in the city of Los Angeles?
I've got clients who are going through that right now.
Yes. Do you know that it takes 1 year just to have 2 departments talk to each other about your plans to build 100 units in the city of LA? Not at the moment that you pay for your permit. 1 year for them to talk.
Right.
They're not looking in the right places, and they're not measuring what they need to measure in order to have predictability, lower the cost, and understand their role as government. I think what we have lost sight of, and I say this to many individuals when they ask me this question, the role of government has changed since the last depression, since the fall of the housing market. Cities were going bankrupt. The state of California eliminated CRA in order to pay its bills and look at the consequences that we're facing as a result of that. The role of government is now to survive, is to ask for fees where they can sustain their staff levels and the bureaucracy that really doesn't meet the needs of what's currently happening for the business sector and for affordable housing in the region. So I think that the role has to be understood of government, and all of us need to decide whether we want to change that or not. Mm-hmm. I also think that we need to, as civic leaders and as individuals who live in this great city, need to have a better understanding of our expectations about housing. It takes, no matter what you do and how much money you have, at least 3 to 5 years to build housing in this, multi-family high rises in this city. Even longer, depending on how you go.
Sure.
So let's stop thinking that we could do it instantly. Everyone has to play a role in addressing the homeless issue. and to be able to help working families afford to stay in Los Angeles, which is what we're not doing.
Well, B, as we wind down this conversation, one of the things that we referenced early on was how you were able to parlay a United Way grant for $97,000 into your first project. We like to highlight partnerships and collaboration. So how do you partner with organizations? How do you collaborate? What are the types of partnerships and collaborations that you're looking for now as you try to move your work forward to advance the work of New Economics for Women?
So for our Women's Business Center, for example, we started it when the middle of COVID. Literally, SBA informed us in February that we were awarded the Women's Business Center and asked us to open it up the 1st of April.
Okay. Where is that located?
In the Valley, in Van Nuys and in Canoga Park.
Okay.
We literally had 3 weeks to open. And it was virtual, which was absolutely crazy because you couldn't find computers and you couldn't do all sorts of things. But we were able to do it. The staff was resilient and amazing. Since that time, I think with our Women's Business Center, we have been able to help about 152 businesses with loans in order to survive. We have been able to help businesses not close. We've started cohorts in the entertainment arena, in restaurants and swap meets, where the industries really have mattered for our community.
Sure.
The kinds of partnerships we're looking for is really to help us bring in more capital for our businesses and creating equity, where we created New Communities Investment, where we're seeking CDFI certification.
Okay, so let's back up there, B. CDFI, share with our audience, please, what a CDFI is and what it means.
It is a Community Development Financial Institution certification by the Department of Treasury, which means you can accept capital and make loans to low-income communities. And we're seeking that certification in order for us to do more lending in starting businesses as well as real estate development.
And will that be aimed at a specific community or geography or?
Yes, for the LA region.
Just LA region. So that's a pretty large region there. Okay,
right.
Great.
Yeah,
Excellent.
We're hoping that we can become LA regional.
Excellent.
The kinds of partnership we're seeking is really educational partnerships. We have with educational colleges. We're partnering with Laverne University, with Mission College, with East LA Community College to really help bring the incubator idea to help students start their businesses and be more entrepreneurial. We would like to have a fund to help raise money to help women, especially at La Posada, to pay for the rent. Anyone wishing to donate $500 is 1 month's rent, believe it or not, for a unit at La Posada. Some families, especially undocumented women, cannot make that contribution sometimes. Their rent sometimes.
And to get involved with that, please share with our audience how to get in touch with you.
At the whole word, neweconomicsforwomen.org.
Excellent.
For our Women's Business Center, it's the acronym NEW-WBC.org.
Okay.
Also, I think another big idea is to really get partnerships with corporations that can help us build out our mindset training for families, where we teach families on how their mind works, what is it that they can do to create economic mobility, and use our economic mobility roadmap and our tools to make sure that we reach a larger audience.
Excellent. Well, B, this has been a great conversation. We're really excited to learn about the work that you do and the excellent work of New Economics for Women and the team that you've assembled to do this work. As we like to say on Civitas LA, the guest gets the last word. What are some concluding thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, there's so much. Thank you for the opportunity. This has really been an honor. But for me, I think the last word is for democracy to work. We all must understand how capitalism works. COVID has taught us that it is not working because we all have allowed it to benefit the 1%, the shareholder. We're all responsible to help it work. And we need to have capital flow into our communities so all of us can benefit from it. Women are the backbone of our economy, and we must support their well-being and their growth in order for our country to prosper. So please stay engaged, be bold, focus on helping make Los Angeles an inclusive, welcoming, and thriving region, and do it with kindness and be a good listener. So thank you for having me.
No, B, that's wonderful. Thank you for joining us. This dialogue has been great, and we appreciate your time and we appreciate your service to our community. B, thank you for joining us. We kick off this year's Hispanic Heritage Month series, and thank you for all the work that you do as a leader in our region. And to our audience, thank you as always for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this program, and we look forward to you joining us in 2 weeks as we continue our Hispanic Heritage Month series and another great civic conversation. So as we like to say, until we meet again, stay strong and get involved. Learn more about Civitas LA and share feedback on this program, or if you have a recommendation about future programs, please visit our website at www.civitasla.com, and we invite you to connect with us on Facebook at Civitas LA, Instagram at Civitas_LA, and Twitter at Civitas_LA.